Hi everyone. So I'm here today having a chat with Chet about driving anxiety. So you won't be seeing Chet, but if you just want to say hello so people know that you're there.
Hi,
Yep.
Paul.
Hi. So a few quick things before we begin. So first of all, are you aware this is being recorded?
Yes, I am.
Yep. And are you happy for this to be used on online on YouTube?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, so we've mentioned before this is not therapy. We're not actually going to fix the problem today. We're just going to talk about it to get some details. And there'll probably be two versions of this video. So I'd like to do one where we just do the conversation straight through, and another one where I kind of break it down. So I'll be explaining, giving you a few hints and tips as to what might be causing your problem. So that being said, what I've got is 5 questions from me, 5 questions from comments in my videos, and then you can ask me any questions you like. So
Mhm.
anything you want to ask before we begin?
No, I think I'm
Yep,
good.
that's good.
Mhm.
So the first question, this is one from me, is what's the problem?
So the problem is that I used to be a really keen and confident driver and used to love driving. And then I think about 10 to 15 years ago, I started getting panic attacks when driving on motorways. And it started in a like very small way, I think. I just had a sort of panic attack and breathlessness, and I just calmed down. And then it just escalated, got worse and worse and worse to the point where I just don't drive on motorways at all. I just completely avoid them. And I only drive in town on sort of just small roads.
Hmm. Yeah. So how has it affected your life?
Completely, sort of completely ruined it in a way because I
Yeah.
just don't feel mobile. I don't feel, um, I'm not free to go where I want. I just feel very restricted. Whereas before, I could go anywhere, anytime, and I have no hesitation to drive anywhere at all in the country.
Hmm. So when it changed, what actually happened? Like at the moment you had the first ever panic attack, whatever you want to call it. What exactly happened?
I was just driving along. I wasn't very far from home. I think I just entered the motorway, and I think I was stressed, but I was okay. I'd driven when stressed before, and I just felt this surge of what I can only call like fear and it was like I didn't even know what it was because my heart
Hmm.
started racing. I felt sweaty. I felt fear, and then really the main thing I remember was my heart was pounding, and I just didn't know what was happening. I couldn't explain it at all. It was very strange, so I had to pull over, and I did some deep breathing to try and calm down.
Yeah. When you say you were stressed, what was that stress about, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, it was to do with my family, my parents, basically. There was some difficulty going on, health issues, and also just like interpersonal issues and things like that. And I'd moved back with them because change of career, change of course, and things like that. So
Hmm.
it was a little bit of friction and stress. But I thought that was all sort of something I was used to.
Oh, I'd say you'd moved home just before this began.
Yeah, yeah, but maybe within a year, yeah, maybe about a year
That's
before or
interesting because that
something.
very
Yeah.
often is the cause, not the cause, but it's very often the case that when you move, it kicks off. The driving anxiety kicks off when you move.
Mm.
So the third main question is, what have you done to fix it?
I I was going to say I haven't done much, but actually what I did was for sort of years, I would say, I just tried to push through it. And
Yeah.
I tried to just keep going back. And I would do like long journeys, like over 100-mile journeys in sort of constant states of panic, sort of rising and falling states of panic, alternating between panic and feeling okay for a little bit, and then the panic coming back. And it just wore me out. So I just stopped. And then since then, I've read a couple of books which we just said exposure therapy and had the kill switch or something, the panic switch or something,
Hmm.
and nothing really worked.
Yeah. Have you ever done any kind of therapy, like one to one or anything like that?
Yeah, but the therapist there, just did the same thing. It just suggested
Mm.
exposure therapy and sort of recorded a kind of audio about driving.
Was that like
Uh,
relax, relax, that kind of thing?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's often what people say. That wouldn't have worked because that isn't the problem. As I always say, it's not the problem. Driving isn't the problem. So the fourth question is, what's the worst thing about having this problem?
It has come. Yeah, it's. I feel like sort of incomplete as a human being, to be honest with you, with
Hmm.
this because I just cannot. I can't understand how it's gone from one extreme to the other, where I used to race along with complete confidence, and now
Yeah.
I just cannot drive at all. On even dual carriageways sometimes scare me, and motorways, and I don't. I feel like I sort of stopped working a while ago because of combination of circumstances,
Hmm.
and it just feels that this was the final nail in the coffin of completely shutting down my life in a way,
Oh,
and feeling very, very restricted and limited in just a sort of incomplete life sort of thing. Yeah.
so when you say incomplete, which part of you is missing?
I want to say some sort of carefree kind of teenage part of me that was
Oh,
sort of fearless.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's often the way, because if you went back to the 20-year-old you, they wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fifth main question is, how would your life be like without this problem?
I'd just be so much more independent. I'm having to rely on getting lifts. I'm relying on public transport. I'm relying on sometimes, you know, paying for like removal vans and things, which a lot of that I could do myself. I'm in the middle of a sort of house move, and I could have done a lot of that myself, and
Hmm.
I can't because I can't drive long distance on motorways. I could even have. I didn't drive abroad, but I could have done that as well. I would be drive. I would be I would be doing a lot more things. My life would be richer and happier.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the opposite in a way.
Yeah. The reason I
Yeah,
ask that is a lot of people think it's just like you can't drive to the shops and that's it. It's much more than that. It's much bigger than
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I've got five questions now. These are not from me. These are from the comments that people often ask. So they might seem a bit abrupt, but this is just what people ask. You've already answered this one in a way, but the first one is, why don't you just push through, just fight it, beat it, just get on with it, just man up?
Yeah, I did try to do that, and I was told myself all those things. I said all those things to myself. Just this is ridiculous. What the hell are you afraid of? You've done it. You love this. What's going on? And I would try and push through, and I'd do long journeys in high states of panic, pulling over quite a bit, much more than I used to try and do deep breathing and calm down. And it never helped. It
Yeah.
ultimately the panic just kept coming back and back and back again and again.
I'll tell you why that is, because all this stuff about push through is conscious, but your problem is subconscious. So it's like you're speaking in a different language. You can say fight it, push. You're not talking in the right language. That's why it doesn't work. So the second one people often ask is, why don't you just go and see a doctor, get some pills or something?
I have actually been to a doctor for the thing is actually the panic affected different areas of my life as well. I
Hmm.
even it was in an extreme state where I was even panicking just walking down the street, to be honest with you. I did go to a doctor and had procedures done and investigations done, and nothing physical was found. I was convinced there was something physically wrong with me,
Hmm. Yeah.
and nothing was found. So, and also I'm a bit hesitant to take any medication that acts on the brain or that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I did see a doctor and a therapist and a number of different therapists as well, and
Yeah.
it didn't work.
Yeah. It's often because like people think it's just about the driving, but you just said it wasn't. It affected you when you were walking. So that proves it's not just the driving. It's not even about the driving. Um, I'm not medically trained, but that's just what people often ask. They often say, why not just go to a doctor? The third one people often ask is, why don't you just take driving lessons?
In a way, I sort of did because a friend said, "Oh, I'll sit with you while,"
Yeah,
and he's an experienced driver, although he doesn't drive at the moment, and it just made in some ways. I want to say it made it worse because I was worried about him being in the car, and the panic
yeah,
didn't go away. The panic, it reduced for a little bit, and then it came back, and there's no predicting it. So I don't see how. I mean, I know how to drive, and when I'm in town, I can drive, so even quite confidently in
yeah,
within a town. So it's not that I can't drive and I don't know how to drive, and it's really about not knowing how to handle the panic or why it's there.
yeah. That's the thing. Again, this isn't me asking this question because I'm laughing because I know how pointless these questions are. For number four is why not just stop driving, just give up, and your problem will go.
It just feels so limiting. It feels like a very limited life. It feels I'm not independent. I can't do what I want. It's more expensive, and I want to try and understand it. And I used to love it. This is the thing. I've lost something that I really used to love, and I want to get
Hmm.
back to it.
Yeah, that's the third time you said that. At least you said about being incomplete. There's a part of you's missing. I said that, but that's the big thing for you. That'll be like the key to fixing this. Number five is why don't you just get an automatic car or a small car?
Uh,
Or have you got an automatic? Not everyone.
one of the cars I do drive in town is well, one of the cars I have driven is an automatic,
Hmm.
and it's the same thing. It's the same
Yeah,
thing happens in there.
yeah. 'Cause
So
a lot of
yeah.
people say, "I'll just go automatic. That'll fix it." It won't do anything.
Mm,
Going electric
mm.
won't fix it because it's nothing to do with driving. So thanks for that. That's really been helpful.
Mm.
Is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Well, I have seen a lot of your videos, Paul, and actually, what you say is the first time anything's made sense in the sense that of all the advice about driving anxiety, it's when it's your kind of mantra, which is driving anxiety has nothing to do with driving.
Hmm.
That's the first thing that shocked me because I'd never heard that before from anyone in such a
Yeah.
succinct and targeted way, precise way. And I thought, oh, what? And then I thought, oh God, and it was really intriguing. And I watched a lot. So what? This is a quite complicated question, but it's sort of like you say. I think it won't make sense because the problem itself doesn't make sense. It
Yeah.
really makes no sense that I used to love something and I just can't. I'm terrified of the one thing I used to love,
Yeah.
and it's sort of like, is it because the subconscious has its own very, to the rational mind, very strange way of encoding things and representing this fear, whatever it is. It's just something that I suppose it's what you say. It just won't make sense in a logical way to the
Yeah.
to the conscious mind. Is that what?
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Because if I give you one example from years ago, somebody once said when we did a session, they were imagining a piece of paper crumpled up. And they were saying, look, I don't get what this is. I keep thinking this piece of paper crumpled. What's that got to do with anything? It makes no sense. And it turns out that was from when when they did exams at school. They used to get nervous in exams and they used to get so angry they'd screw the paper up, throw it on the floor, thinking I'm useless, I can't do it. So you see their image of that piece of paper was the sort of fear of failure. That then came out when they were driving. So it does make sense when you do in reverse. You think, oh, well, it's just a fear of failure, fear of exams, whatever. And that kind of morphed into driving. But it doesn't make sense until you do it backwards. So if you try and work out what's a piece of paper got to do with driving anxiety, you'll never make it out. But if you know in reverse, it's because of the exams and that was the paper. That's the way it kind of codes the message. So your mind works in colors, algorithms, shapes. So have you ever thought of anything when you're driving, any kind of thing? You might not have, but have you ever had any kind of image, symbol, shape, color, anything like that?
No, I not that I can. No, the only thing that comes to mind is the feeling of being hemmed in. And,
Mm,
I think a lot of people say this that, oh, the cars are coming at me from all sides and I can't cope with it. That's the
yeah.
only thing that comes to mind. And also the thing of an open road with a big sky which never bothered me before. So it's just things like that, but
I
not
knew you'd
any
say that
specific image.
because this goes back to what you were saying earlier about we're talking out consciously. So if I say to you, what's the cause of the problem? You're thinking, well, I don't know. But when you go unconscious, it pops into your mind. That's the difference. So all this talk about driving, driving, go driving, you won't do anything. You've got to go into your unconscious, which isn't that weird. If you go into your unconscious, then that's where the thing about the paper comes from. So there will be something in your mind like the paper, probably not for everyone. Sometimes it's just a feeling, but there'll be something. What I'd say for you is it's almost definitely this thing to do with being, how did you phrase it, incomplete. That word is really important because not many people use that word very often. And you said it twice, then you said it again a third time later on about having a missing part or something. I think I said that, but there's definitely something there. So, have you got any? I know what the answer's going to be, but have you got any idea what that missing part is? It's kind of like I asked earlier.
Yeah.
You said it was the younger you.
Yeah.
What did that younger you have that you don't have now?
I just want to say a kind of enjoyment of life and
Mm-hmm.
less hang-ups about everything,
All right.
really.
So when did you
Yeah.
stop enjoying life?
Okay, I mean, an obvious big part of it was my mum died in 2010 of cancer, essentially, and
Mm.
that was a huge part of it. But I was always I think I always had quite a high level of anxiety, social anxiety, and things like that. But when that happened in 2010, I think it felt like the nail in the coffin,
Mm.
and I kind of shut down and froze and isolated myself.
Is that when you moved house as well? 'Cause that was later.
Uh, No, I'd moved back in, essentially moved back in with my parents before that, shortly
Oh,
before that,
yeah.
actually. Yeah.
Oh, right. So that was around the same time.
Yeah.
So you've had
Yeah.
the move plus the passing.
Yeah.
So you've
Yeah.
had two big
Yeah.
changes because this
Yeah.
often happens when things change. So I'd say that it's definitely something to do with it. Have you mentioned those things in therapy before and worked on those?
Yeah. And I'm quite
Yeah.
resistant to working on them. I'm quite
Oh, well, there you go.
resistant
Then
to
there's
it.
a
Yeah.
let's say
Yeah.
what makes you
Yeah.
resistant. You don't need to get too personal if you don't want to tell
Yeah.
me, but what makes you resistant?
I hate um feeling grief. I feel I'm just going to collapse. And
Oh,
I cannot actually cry about things. I just never cry basically, and it's like I just can't. I think I haven't really dealt with the grief of my mum's death basically
there you go.
properly. Yeah,
So you've just got to one of the probably the root cause of your problem. And all we've done is talked about it. So I'm not going to make you cry now, but if you
yeah.
cried, I wonder what would happen.
Mm,
Something to think about.
mm,
Anyway, is there anything else? We'll leave it there because this
mm,
isn't a session. We're not going to get too deep into
yeah.
that. But is there anything else you want to ask or say or anything?
No, I'm a bit flummoxed by what we. I'm quite intrigued by what we talked about. So I'm just very grateful to just have the opportunity to talk to you, quite honestly, because I've seen a lot of your videos and they've been very, very uh, eye-opening. So yeah, thanks very much.
That's good. Thanks for you. That's going to help a lot of people.